In the dim glow of the screen, the list of chilling tales awaited, each story a testament to the inexplicable and the terrifying. As the cursor hovered over the first title, anticipation hung heavy in the air. Brace yourself as we journey through the eerie corridors of 2023, where reality blurs with the macabre and the line between fact and fiction fades into darkness. Nestled in the heart of a picturesque town, the old hotel stood as a relic of bygone days, its grand facade hiding secrets darker than the shadows it cast. Guests came seeking respite from the chaos of the world, unaware of the malevolent presence that lurked within its walls. The first whispers of unease came from the staff, tales of ghostly apparitions and inexplicable sounds echoing through the empty halls. But it wasn't until the arrival of a young couple celebrating their anniversary that the true horror unfolded. As they settled into their room, a sense of unease settled over them like a suffocating blanket. Strange noises emanated from the walls, and shadows danced in the corners of their vision. When the clock struck midnight, they were plunged into a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. Whispers filled the room, chilling and malevolent, as unseen hands reached out from the darkness. The couple clung to each other, their screams drowned out by the cacophony of voices that surrounded them. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the terror ceased, leaving behind only silence and the echo of their own racing hearts. They fled the hotel at dawn, shaken to the core by the horrors they had witnessed. But as they drove away, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were leaving something behind, something that would forever haunt their dreams. In the heart of rural America, nestled between rolling hills and endless fields, lay a village forgotten by time. Its inhabitants lived simple lives, their days filled with the rhythm of the land and the warmth of community. But one fateful night, the peace was shattered by an event that would echo through the ages. As the clock struck midnight, the village vanished without a trace, leaving behind only empty streets and abandoned homes. Search parties scoured the surrounding countryside, but there was no sign of the missing villagers, no clue as to where they had gone. Rumors spread like wildfire, tales of a malevolent force that had descended upon the village, swallowing it whole. Some whispered of dark rituals and ancient curses, while others spoke of extraterrestrial abduction and government conspiracy. But as the days turned into weeks and then months, the truth remained elusive, buried beneath layers of speculation and fear. The village became a ghost town, its memory fading into legend as nature reclaimed what was rightfully hers. Yet, to this day, those who dare to venture into the wilderness swear they can still hear the echo of laughter on the wind, a haunting reminder of the lives lost to the darkness. Deep in the heart of the Egyptian desert, archaeologists unearthed a relic from a bygone era, its beauty marred by the curse that lay dormant within. For centuries, it had lain buried beneath the shifting sands, waiting for the moment when it would be freed from its ancient prison. As the artifact was brought into the light, strange occurrences began to plague the excavation site. Equipment malfunctioned, and tempers flared as tensions rose among the team members. But it wasn't until night fell that the true horror revealed itself. Those who dared to touch the artifact found themselves plagued by nightmares, visions of unspeakable horrors that left them trembling and broken. Madness descended upon the camp as paranoia and fear tore apart the fragile bonds that held them together. And then, one by one, they began to disappear, swallowed up by the desert or claimed by forces beyond their comprehension. In the end, only one remained, a lone survivor left to wander the sands, haunted by the memories of those they had lost. On a deserted highway, where the asphalt stretched out like a ribbon of darkness, a lone driver found themselves face to face with a passenger unlike any they had ever seen. With vacant eyes and a chilling aura, they appeared out of nowhere, a specter of the night with a story to tell. As they drove on in silence, the air grew thick with tension, the only sound the hum of the engine and the pounding of their own heartbeat. But when they dared to glance in the rearview mirror, they found it empty, as if their passenger had never been there at all. Fear gnawed at the edges of their sanity as they pressed on into the night, the darkness swallowing them whole. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the encounter was over, leaving them alone once more with nothing but the memory of the phantom passenger to keep them company. Abandoned for decades, the old hospital loomed like a specter over the city, its crumbling facade a testament to the horrors that had once occurred within its walls. But when a group of urban explorers ventured inside, they awakened something far more sinister than they could have imagined. The air was thick with the stench of decay as they made their way through the darkened corridors, their footsteps echoing off the walls like whispers in the night. Shadows danced in the corners of their vision, and strange noises filled the air, as if the building itself were alive with malice. But it wasn't until they reached the bowels of the hospital that they found the source of the horror that lurked within. There, in the depths of the basement, they stumbled upon a room filled with forgotten souls, their tortured screams echoing through the darkness. With terror coursing through their veins, they fled the hospital, vowing never to return. But even now, as they lie awake at night, haunted by the memories of what they saw, they can't shake the feeling that something is still watching, waiting for the moment when they let their guard down. In a quiet suburban neighborhood where the houses stood like sentinels against the encroaching darkness, a family found themselves caught in the grip of a terror unlike any they had ever known. It began innocently enough, with strange noises in the night and objects moving of their own accord. But as the days turned into weeks, the true nature of the horror that had descended upon them became clear. Their daughter, once bright and full of life, became a vessel for a malevolent force that sought to destroy everything in its path. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as she spoke in tongues that no human tongue could replicate. Desperate for help, the family turned to the church, where priests performed exorcisms in a desperate bid to drive out the demon that had taken root within their daughter. But with each attempt, the entity grew stronger, feeding off the fear and desperation that filled the air. In the end, it was love that saved them, a mother's unyielding devotion and a father's unwavering faith. With a final prayer and a touch of holy water, they banished the demon back to the depths of hell, where it belonged. But even now, as they try to piece their lives back together, they know that the memory of those dark days will haunt them forever, a reminder of the thin line that separates the world of the living from the realm of the dead. Deep within the heart of the forest, where the trees loomed like ancient guardians and the air was thick with the scent of decay, a cult worshipped at the altar of darkness. Their rituals were unspeakable, their practices forbidden by both man and nature. But when they summoned forces beyond their control, they unleashed a terror that threatened to consume them all. Shadows danced in the flickering firelight as screams echoed through the trees, the air thick with the stench of blood and fear. Those who dared to venture too close never returned, their bodies lost to the darkness that lurked within. And as the cult faded into obscurity, swallowed up by the very forces they had sought to harness, the forest reclaimed its dominion, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded within its depths. In the attic of an old house, where forgotten memories lay buried beneath layers of dust and cobwebs, a doll sat silently upon a shelf, its eyes watching with a malevolent gaze. It had been a gift from a long-forgotten relative, its porcelain face frozen in a permanent smile that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to look upon it. But when strange occurrences began to plague the house, the family knew that something was terribly wrong. Objects moved of their own accord, and whispers echoed through the empty rooms, as if the very walls were alive with the sound of malevolent laughter. As the days turned into weeks, the doll's presence grew ever more sinister, its eyes following the family's every move with an intensity that bordered on madness. And then, one fateful night, it spoke, its voice a chilling whisper that sent ice coursing through their veins. With trembling hands, they gathered up the doll and cast it into the flames, watching as it burned with a fervor that seemed almost alive. And yet, even as the flames consumed it, they couldn't shake the feeling that its malevolent gaze still lingered, watching and waiting for the moment when it would return to claim its vengeance. Once a place of healing, the abandoned asylum stood as a monument to the horrors that had occurred within its walls. For decades, it had lain empty and forgotten, its halls echoing with the tortured screams of those who had been confined within its confines. But when a group of intrepid explorers ventured inside, they awakened something far more sinister than they could have imagined. Shadows danced in the flickering light of their torches as they made their way through the darkened corridors, their footsteps muffled by the dust that lay thick upon the ground. Strange noises filled the air, and cold fingers brushed against their skin, leaving behind a chill that seemed to penetrate to the bone. And then, just when they thought they couldn't take any more, they stumbled upon a room filled with forgotten souls, their eyes vacant and their minds lost to the darkness. With terror coursing through their veins, they fled the asylum, vowing never to return. But even now, as they lie awake at night, haunted by the memories of what they saw, they can't shake the feeling that something is still watching, waiting for the moment when they let their guard down. Lost at sea, adrift on a sea of darkness, the ghost ship sailed silently through the night, its tattered sails billowing in the wind. On board, the crew wandered the decks like specters, their faces twisted into masks of agony as they searched endlessly for a port that would never come. For years, the ship had drifted aimlessly, its captain and crew cursed to roam the seas for all eternity. Some whispered of mutiny and betrayal, while others spoke of a curse laid upon the ship by vengeful spirits seeking retribution for past wrongs. But as the years turned into decades, the truth became lost to the mists of time, swallowed up by the endless expanse of the ocean. And yet, even now, as the ghost ship fades into legend, its memory lives on in the hearts of those who dare to venture into the unknown, a reminder of the horrors that lie beneath the surface of the sea. As the final tale fades into the ether, the darkness recedes, leaving behind only the echo of whispered fears and the promise of nightmares yet to come. In the end, we are left to ponder the thin line that separates the world of the living from the realm of the dead, and to wonder what other horrors lie hidden in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. Until next time, dear listeners, may you sleep soundly, if you dare.